Hi students, welcome to yet another session of my class reading fiction. We are discussing different types of novel. Today we are going to discuss two different types of novel. One is Bildungsroman and Satire. Let us continue the topic. Yes, the Bildungsroman. What do you mean by Bildungsroman novels? Or how can we define this term? A Bildungsroman is the story of a single individual's growth and development within the context of a defined social order. So, a Bildungsroman novel, it is the story of a single individual. Here, the single individual is the main character or the protagonist of that particular novel, and single individuals growth and development. So such type of novels, that is Bildungsroman novel, depicts the growth, that is the individuals, the growth of that main character or the protagonist and his development within the context of a defined social order. Depiction of such characters, the development of such characters in the novel, such type of novels are called Bildungsroman novel. Bildung is the German word for the development of the self through knowledge. Yes, Bildung, the term, it is a German word, and the meaning of the word is the development of the self. Development of the self. Here, the development of the main character or the protagonist of that particular novel. Development of self through knowledge, and the other meaning of the word is education. So, Bildung, the term means development of the self through knowledge as well as education. And Roman means novel. So, now you get the meaning of the term Bildungsroman. It is a story of a single individual's growth and development within the context of a defined social order. Then it is the German term for a type of novel. Yes, Bildungsroman, it represents, it is the German term for a particular type of novel that focuses on the development of a protagonist moving from, that is the development of the main character or the protagonist, that is from childhood to adulthood and maturity. Yes. So such type of novels, that is Bildungsroman, in Bildungsroman novel, we can see the main character or the protagonist, his development from childhood to adulthood and then at last reaching a mature stage. Maybe acquiring spirituality or spiritual education. That means at last he or she, the main protagonist, reached a mature stage. Such type of novel, depiction of such characters in the novel. Such type of novels are called Bildungsroman novel. And these novels depict the crisis that the character goes through in his or her quest for identity. Yes, these novels, that is Bildungsroman novels, they depict the crisis because that period is crucial. That is a period, that is a self-development happens. That is that time period for the protagonist or the main character, it is crucial because they are passing through a moral, psychological development. So these novels depict the crisis that the main character or the protagonist through in his or her quest for identity. Because a development has happened too. Development in the sense means moral, psychological and self-development happened to that particular character or the main character. So these novels depict the crisis that the character goes through in his or her quest for identity. And they are sometimes referred to as, these novels, that is the Bildungsroman novels, they are sometimes referred to as coming of age novels. The other name or the alternate name for termed as, referred to as coming of age novels. And Goethe's Wilhelm Meister's Apprenticeship is set the pattern for this particular literary form. Later novels like Charles Dickens, David Copperfield, James Joyce, A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, and Gunter Grass, The Tin Drum, all are examples of this particular literary form, the Bildungsroman. Then, when the novel follows the formation of a young artist, it is called a Roman, that means novel of the artist. That means when the novel follows, that is in the Bildungsroman, I already told you it is the development of a single protagonist from childhood to adulthood to maturity. And this is also a subtype of Bildungsroman novel, that is Roman. The subtype of Bildungsroman. It is otherwise called a novel of the artist. Novel of the artist. From that phrase itself, we can understand that it is something about artist's growth to maturity. So when the novel follows the formation of a young artist, it is called, that means the main character or the protagonist or the main character in the novel, his formation as an artist from childhood to, or artist growth from that infant stage to maturity. Such type of novels, depiction of such characters in the novel is called Roman. It is a subtype of Bildungsroman. Bildungsroman means the main characters, moral, psychological and other development from childhood to maturity. But Roman, it is a novel of the artist. That means artist growth. The main character may be an artist. So artist growth from childhood to maturity. Such type of novels are called Roman novels. For example, Thomas Mann's Dr. Faustus. Thomas Mann's Dr. Faustus is the best example for this stream, that is Roman. And in African American literature, there are so many examples. That is Zora Neale Hurston's Their Eyes Were Watching God. Then Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man. Then Toni Morrison's Soul are examples of not Roman. These novels are examples. These African American novels, literature in African American literature, these novels are examples for Bildungsroman novel. And Thomas Mann's Dr. Faustus is an example for Roman novels. Then, the search for fulfillment often culminates in a journey which provides enlightenment. I already told you this is a period of crisis. That means the main character, that is the novel, depicts the crisis that the character goes through in his or her quest for identity. So the search for fulfillment, or try to find out his or her own identity, that quest, the search for fulfillment often culminates or results in a journey and which provides enlightenment at the end of that journey. That means reaching that spirituality or reaching that mature state, which provides enlightenment. And the central conflict in these novels was between the individuality of the protagonist and the social, economic, scientific and the religious orthodoxies of the day. I already told you in the first sentence itself, it is the story of a single protagonist's development within a particular or defined social context. So that particular or defined social context are these social, economic, scientific and religious factors of his day or of his age. So the central conflict in these Bildungsroman novels was between the individuality of the protagonist. That means his first, the crisis that the character goes through in his or her quest for identity. So the individuality, that is, these novels depict the individuality of the protagonist and these defined social context, that is the social, economic, scientific and the religious orthodoxies of the day. Then the 19th century saw the publication of Bildungsroman, which were more overtly transgressive in the arenas of sexuality and sexual politics. That means these 19th century Bildungsroman novels, they openly expresses the sexuality. Transgressive in the sense means violate the moral and social boundaries. So openly, overtly means openly expresses in the areas of sexuality and sexual politics. It is they openly expresses the concept of or the existing moral or violation of existing moral or social boundaries in the society. That is 19th century Bildungsroman novels. They openly express or overtly transgressive in the arenas of sexuality and sexual politics. Then Gustav Flaubert's Madame Bovary and Leo Tolstoy's Anna Karenina challenged the social conventions by presenting women characters whose psychological development includes an awareness of their sexualized subjectivities. Yes. Then Gustav Flaubert's Madame Bovary and Leo Tolstoy's Anna Karenina. This Gustav Flaubert's Madame Bovary and Leo Tolstoy's Anna Karenina. Tolstoy is a Russian writer. Tolstoy's Anna Karenina. These two works challenge the social conventions by presenting women characters. Yes, in these novels, or they break the existing traditions. These novelists, that is Flaubert and Tolstoy, they broke the existing traditions or social conventions by presenting women characters. That is, their main character or the protagonist are women characters. So, challenge the social conventions by presenting women characters whose psychological development includes an awareness of their sexualized subjectivities. I already told you Bildungsroman means it is the development of the main character from childhood to maturity. So here women characters, here the characters are women characters. So their psychological development, this women characters' psychological development, that includes an awareness of their sexualized being at the end of their journey, or when they reach that mature stage or that spirituality or that end point. They aware that these women characters, they aware that awareness of their sexualized subjectivities in the sense means they experienced or they aware that the woman's experience of herself as a sexual being is the meaning of sexualized subjectivities. Sexualized subjectivity means woman's experience of herself as a they aware that what is their position in the society, or the society considers this woman or women characters or women as a sexual being. So when they reach that stage, that is when they reach the end point, that is from childhood to maturity, or when they reach that mature stage, they aware that what is their position in the society, or what is the concept of the society regarding women, or how they consider women in how they mean society consider women as a sexualized subject. This Flaubert is a French writer and Tolstoy is a Russian writer. So, in the writings of this Flaubert and Tolstoy, we can see this challenging conventions. That is, they challenge the social in their writings. They challenge the social conventions by presenting women characters whose psychological development includes an awareness of their sexualized subjectivities. That means when they reach that mature stage, they are aware that, or they identify that what is their position in the society, and they identify that the position is, that is, woman as a sexual being. That is the concept of the society towards women. So they identified this position at the end of their journey. That means when they reach their maturity. That means a feministic aspect or feministic element is added to the convention of the Bildungsroman novel in the case of these writers, in the writings of Flaubert and Tolstoy in the later years. Then, the modernist Bildungsroman focused on the fragmented self of the protagonist rather on his or her interaction with the society. That is in modern age, in modern era, that is in the 20th century literature, that is a modernist Bildungsroman novels focused on the fragmented self of the protagonist. The fragmented self of the protagonist. Fragmented self here means like skepticism or doubt or dilemma in Victorian age. These are the main characteristic features of Victorian age, like that characteristics of Victorian age. Here in modern age, we can trace this fragmentation. There is no stability in order. Everything is in a fragmented state. That is the characteristic feature of modern age. And this characteristic is portrayed in the modern literature also. So the modernist Bildungsroman novels focused on that fragmented self of the protagonist rather on his or her interaction with the society. Then there was a special focus on the female subjectivity under hegemonic patriarchal societies. Hegemonic means powerful. Then a patriarchal society means male-dominated societies. We all know that our society is patriarchal one. That means male-dominated society. So here in the modern age, that is in the modern Bildungsroman novel, we can see that special focus. That is, it emphasizes this modern Bildungsroman novels give much emphasis or focus on the female subjectivity. I already told you in the previous paragraph regarding that female subjectivity in the case of in the writings of Tolstoy and Flaubert, their writings. So in the modern age, this Bildungsroman novels, yes, they focus on the female subjectivity under this hegemonic patriarchal societies, under this male-dominated societies. Then Virginia Woolf's writings declared that this Virginia Woolf means one of the female writers in the modern age. She is famous, and Virginia Woolf's writings declared that female growth is impractical within the framework of conventional marriage and domesticity. We already know that there is a definite convention regarding marriage and domestic life, especially in the case of women, that is existing in our society. The society has a definite concept regarding the marriage custom and the domestic life of women. So Virginia Woolf's writings, according to Virginia Woolf, that is her writings declare that female growth is impractical, that is not practical or not impractical within the framework of conventional marriage domesticity, because this conventional marriage system and domesticity that were put forward by these patriarchal societies, that means male dominated societies, that is in the hands of male. So she believed that, or in her writings, she declared that this female growth is impractical within the, not practical within the framework of conventional marriage and domesticity, because it was controlled by these patriarchal societies. That is her belief, and that she portrayed in her writings also. Then postmodernism, that is after the that is in the 21st century postmodernism, after the two world wars. Postmodernism paid attention to marginalized and offbeat narratives. Postmodernist novels, especially this postmodern Bildungsroman novels, they paid attention to marginalized. Marginalized means suppressed or oppressed people in the society. So, attention to marginalized and offbeat narratives. Offbeat narratives means narratives which are usually ignored. That is, ignored narratives are called offbeat narratives. So, these postmodernism paid attention to marginalized and offbeat narratives, and feminist interpretations and other rewritings of conventional growth tales that gave a whole new perspective to the Rana. Yes, feminist interpretations along with the queer rewritings of conventional growth tales that gave a whole new perspective to this particular literary form, Bildungsroman novel. And um, African writers like Chinua Achebe's Thing Fall Apart, then J.M. Coetzee The Life and Times of Michael Gay, then other lesbian and gay narratives like Janet Winterson's Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit, and Alan Hollingston's The Swimming Pool Library, all are examples for, yes, where open challenges of conservative beliefs associated with the Jnana. Yes, all these works are considered as Bildungsroman novel, but what is the peculiarity here means they were, yes, openly challenges the conservative beliefs associated with this particular literary form. So, Bildungsroman, it is the story of a single protagonist development within a prescribed or defined social context. That is the development of a main character or the protagonist from childhood to adulthood to maturity. I think all of you understand this Bildungsroman novel. Next, we are going to discuss about satire. I think all of you are familiar with this term satire. It is a form of humor. Am I right? Yes. So, what do you mean by a satire? Satire aims to ridicule vice or folly in an individual, institution or society. So, what do you mean by satire? It aims to ridicule. It is a type of humor. Ridicule what? To ridicule vice. Vice means one's wicked behavior or a cunning behavior. Or folly. Folly means one's foolishness. So satire aims to ridicule vice or folly in an individual or institution or society. Then unlike irony, irony is a type of humor. It is like a sarcasm. So unlike irony, satire can be extremely harsh, but the nature is different. Here, unlike irony, irony is also a type of satire. That is, it is a type of, it is that we can say it is as a sarcasm. Unlike irony, satire can be, but the expression of satire, it can be extremely harsh. Using wit or grotesque humor, a satirist can destroy the subject of his wrath. That is, with the help of wit or grotesque humor, a satirist, he or she can destroy the subject. Subject means the person who is mentioned here. So a satirist can destroy the subject of his wrath. Wrath means his anger. That means with the help of this wit or grotesque humor, a satirist can destroy. That means satire means it is an extreme expression of humor. Can destroy the subject of his wrath. And satire aims to ridicule vice or folly in an individual, institution or society. Then irony of a militant kind. Irony, I already told you, it is a type of humor, that means sarcasm. But irony of a militant. Militant means in a extreme or violent. That is, irony of a militant kind is the chief device of satire. Then what distinguishes satire from comedy? What distinguishes satire from comedy is its lack of tolerance for folly or human imperfection. That is the difference between satire and comedy. Its lack of tolerance for folly or human imperfection. Thus we can consider satire as an attack with an element of play. Then the aim of satire. What is the aim of the satire? Satire, the aim of satire is to be entertaining and censorious at the same time. And at the same time, we get an entertainment from the satire, and censorious means severe criticism. Severely criticize those folly or vices. Severely criticize those persons vice or folly or imperfection, etc. So the aim of satire is to be entertaining. At the same time, we get an entertainment from the satire, and censorious at the same time, acting as a negotiation with the judgmental, between the judgmental and the joyous. That is, it is acting in between, or it is acting as a negotiation between both judgmental and the joyous. That means to be aim of satire is to be entertaining and censorious at the same time. Then in classical Latin, Juvenal and Horace promoted these two schools of satire. One is Juvenal satire and the other one is Horatian satire. That is in classical Latin. This Juvenal and Horace, they promoted these two schools of satire. And Juvenal stood for harsh, biting, judgmental satire. Juvenal satire, they promote, Juvenal stood for harsh, biting, judgmental, that is severe criticism. Satire, and Horace, that is Horatian satire. Horace for the genial, sophisticated and joyous type. So in classical Latin, satires are divided into two schools. One is juvenile satire and the other one is Horatian satire. And this juvenile stood for harsh or severe or biting judgmental satire, and Horatian stood for the genial, sophisticated and joyous type. For example, it should be mentioned that while satire is found in many novels, and two notable satirical novels in English are George Orwell's Animal Farm is the best example for a satiric form, and the other one is the novel 1984. 1984 is the title of a novel, is an example for a satire. Both these novels, that is Animal Farm and 1984, both these novels satirize totalitarian governments. Both these novels are written by George Orwell. George Orwell's Animal Farm and the novel 1984. Both these novels satirize totalitarian governments. That means criticize the government's authoritarian power or their power over powerless people, etc. That means severe or harsh criticism against these totalitarian governments. In England, the golden age of the form, that is satire, was the neoclassical period when John Dryden and Jonathan Swift raised satire to the highest levels, establishing a tradition kept alive in the Romantic period in the poetry of Lord Byron. Yes, in England, the golden age of the form was the neoclassical period. In this period, yes, John Dryden's Macflagno and Alexander Pope's The Dunciad, then Jonathan Swift, Gulliver's Travels, all these are examples for satire in the 17th century, that is in the neoclassical period. And these writers, that is Dryden, Pope, Jonathan Swift, they raised satire to the highest levels. They raised satire to the highest levels, establishing a tradition kept alive in the Romantic period in the poetry of Lord Byron, his poem Don Juan, etc. These are all examples of these writers. They kept or they established a tradition that kept alive in the Romantic period in the poetry of. That means that is continuing in the Romantic age, and we can trace that tradition in the poem of Lord Byron, that is in Don Juan. In this classical tradition, yes, that is in the neoclassical tradition, an important form is the formal or direct satire, in which Writer directly addresses the reader. That is the formal or direct satire, in which the writer directly addresses the reader with a satiric comment. That is the meaning of the phrase formal or direct satire. So in this neoclassical tradition, an important form is the formal or direct satire, and the alternative form of indirect satire, usually found in plays and novels, allows us, that means readers, allow the readers to draw our own conclusions from the actions of the characters. That is the other form. That is the alternative form of satire, is indirect satire, that usually found in plays and novels, allows as the readers, allows the readers to draw our own conclusions from the actions of the characters. For example, novels of Wilhelm and Chinua Achebe. Chinua Achebe is an African writer. That is indirect form of satire. And the first one is, that is in the classical tradition, we can trace the formal or direct satire. That means direct address, in which the writer directly addresses the reader. That means a reader or recipient of a verse letter in the form of reader with a satiric comment. That is formal or direct satire, and the other form is indirect satire, that allows the readers to draw our own conclusions from the actions of the characters. And example for indirect satire is novels of Evelyn Waugh and Chinua Achebe. I think all of you understand this session, that is satire. Hope all of you understand this lecture, that is both Bildungsroman and satire. There is a homework for you. Homework is write a note on Bildungsroman and satire, and write your homework and send back to me. Thank you. Have a nice day. See you again.